Okay, welcome everybody. So today I'm recording section 14.5, difference of squares, trinomials, and each video will have about 15 minutes. This is just easier to download smaller videos on YouTube, okay? So first what we're going to do, we're going to talk about difference of squares formula. Difference of squares formula. A square minus b square. You can factor difference of square using a minus b times a plus b. Okay. Example. Let's say you have to factor using difference of squares. Using difference of squares. And I will give you x squared minus 9. Okay, so you have a difference of squares. Why we call difference of squares? Because 9 it's a perfect square, okay, and x squared it's a perfect square. Again, x squared it's a perfect square because x multiplied by itself will give you x squared. 9 it's a perfect square because 3 multiplied by itself will give you 9. So how we're going to factor that? So you have x squared minus 9. This is the same as product of x minus 3 times x plus 3. Okay. So also how you can always get that when you have a difference of squares. Okay. You can always check if you can take the square root of each. So square root of x squared will give you x, and you have 9. Check if you can take square root of 9, and you're getting 3, and positive and negative 3. So technically that's why in the parenthesis you have negative 3, because square root of 9 is equal to negative 3, and the second parenthesis has positive 3 because square root of 9 is positive 3. Okay. So that's the formula which everybody should memorize. Difference of squares, a squared minus b squared, it's the same as a minus b times a plus b. So technically you have the same expressions in each parenthesis, but opposite sign. One parenthesis has minus, one parenthesis has plus. Okay, let's do a little more examples. So, more examples. Okay, factoring difference of squares. Differences of squares. Okay, let's do the first one. X squared minus 64 again. So to factor this one, we already know that x squared, when you will take the square root, you're going to end up with x. That's why in each parenthesis I'm putting x. Now 64, when you will take the square root of 64, you will end up with positive and negative 8. That's why I'm going to put in one parenthesis positive 8 and in the second parenthesis negative 8. Just one quick note. Use difference of squares, and that may be silly when you have that minus. Okay, so it's very important. Okay, x squared plus 64 won't work. Okay, so make sure that you're paying attention that it has to be minus. Okay, let's do b. Let's use that difference of squares. You have 25 q squared minus 49 w squared. Here you also can use the difference of squares, so what I recommended, take the first expression, okay, that's 25q squared, and just take the square root. So square root of 25, it's 5, square root of q squared will give you q. Okay. Now do the same thing with 49w squared. Take the square root of 49 of w squared. Square root of 49 it's 7, square root of w squared will be w. Okay, so while I'm taking the square root, so I'm doing the second power, so now I know how to factor the difference of squares right here. And again, I know that I can use the formula a squared minus b squared because I have that minus. So when we took the square root of 25q squared, we end up with 5q. That 5q will be, again, don't forget that you're rewriting as a product of two parentheses. One parenthesis will have minus, the second parenthesis will have a plus. So the formula is a minus b times a plus b. So if I put 5q in the first parenthesis, of course I will put 5q also in the second parenthesis. Then the second expression, I took the square root of 49w squared just to show you that 49w squared is the same as 7w times 7w. So that 7w will go inside, will be the second expression. So one parenthesis will have minus 7w, the second will have positive 7w. Okay, and I will use the same technique for example C. Use the difference of squares to factor 98 m cube n, and again I will put the star because this is a little more tricky, m to the third power n minus 50 mn. So in this example you may see, okay, how I can use the difference of squares. I don't even have any square here. So here, first, what I want you to do, I want you to factor out GCF. So we talked about it in the previous section, how to find the GCF. So GCF of 98 m cube n, and you can ignore that negative by now, 50 mn is, so you have 98 and 50. You have to find the greatest integer which can divide 98 and 50, which will be 2. And then we have m to the third power and m by itself, which is m to the first power. So you're going to choose the variable with the lowest exponent, which will be m. And then here we have n and n, so GCF will be n. So we're going to factor out GCF. So GCF of 98 m cube n and 50 mn, it's 2mn. Okay, so let's factor that GCF. So rewrite, sorry, here. rewrite 98m cubed n minus 50 mn as GCF, which is 2mn times parenthesis, and again what goes inside the parentheses. So let's review what we did in the previous section. You take that 98m cubed n and you divide that by GCF, which is 2mn, and the quotient goes inside the parentheses. So 98 divided by 2 will give you 49. M cubed divided by m will give you m to a second power, and n cancel. So we're going to get 49m squared and we're going to do the same thing with 50mn. Take that 50mn and divide by GCF, which is 2mn, to know exactly what goes inside of the parenthesis. Again, don't forget that we have minus here. Since you have a minus, of course we'll have a minus here also. So 50 divided by 2 will give you 25. M and n cancel, so we're just putting 25 right here. Okay, so let's continue. So now we have 2mn times 49m squared minus 25. So we need to factor completely. So next, what you're going to do, next, use the difference of squares. So rewrite 49m to the second power minus 25 as a plus b times a minus b. Okay, so you need to figure out what is that a and b. So to get a, what you're going to do, take the first expression, which is 49m squared, and undo the second power by taking the square root. So your a will be equal 7m. Square root of 49 is 7, square root of m squared, it's m. So the difference of square will be 7m plus something times 7m minus something. Now to get b, I'm going to take 25 and of course undo the second power. We'll just take the square root of 25. So that will just give me 5. So I know that my b is 5, that's why the second expression will be 5, and in the second parenthesis you have minus 5. Last, put all factors together. With GCF. So don't forget that we start that problem with factoring out the GCF. The GCF it's 2mn. So I have 2mn. That 98, let's just rewrite that problem. So originally we had 98m cubed n minus 50mn. Now we need to factor that completely. The GCF was 2mn. So again, that was our GCF. And from difference of squares, we end up with (7m plus 5 times 7m minus 5). 7m plus 5 times 7m minus 5. Okay, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to pause that video on the YouTube and I will continue with the second video. Thank you for watching.